Welcome back to the grind. In this video, we're going to talk about Nocturne and Fafnir and the spell updates that have been released recently and how this changes the dragons based on their previous weaknesses and whether or not that fixes them or how it affects them overall. And I will try to summarize which one I think is better for certain situations, but as previously, I still kind of am a little bit underwhelmed with both of them, unfortunately. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Big thank you to Kata, another member of the Creators Faction, for letting me use these images. They also have the Buddy bot in Line. If you have Line, I'm going to put the link in the description for you to add Buddy, and it's a great resource for you to reference. You type in keywords and it sends back to you information on those resources. For example, rider skill trees or event information. It also will post updates about the upcoming events and changes. So definitely check that out if you're interested. The link will be in the description. So let's start with Nocturne. A couple of Nocturne's weaknesses is he doesn't have a spell to deal a significant amount of damage. So he relies on using his ammo with the damage boost after using the cloak to take out towers individually. And his way of surviving an island is by disabling towers with snow and using the cloak repeatedly to dodge damage. Now the problem was the cloak only lasted 0.5 seconds, and if you did not cancel the cloak in time, you would go into that damage bonus and be vulnerable to towers damaging you because you could not reactivate cloak again until the damage bonus completed. Now, if you timed everything perfectly, yes, you could snow, then cloak, then uncloak before the duration and snow a couple more towers. But the problem is if you shoot your snow and then cloak immediately after, which sometimes is necessary, then the disable spell will not land on the tower before the cloak expires. And you cannot fire ammo to break the cloak if the disable spell is still in the air. And so that made it very challenging to dodge damage repeatedly if you were continuing to snow towers. So this change to increase the cloak duration from 0.5 to 1 second actually makes a pretty big difference for Nocturne. This makes it much easier and pretty reliable to snow and then cloak and then break the cloak before the damage bonus so you can snow again and then cloak again before taking damage. Now, yes, you will have to be very quick, but it does not rely on such precise and sometimes impossible timing in order to make this happen. So this will definitely allow Nocturne to set bases up much more easily. However, he will still run into that big problem of running out of rage for those long islands, especially because you have to be so quick between uncloaking and recloaking because you have a fraction of a second before the towers, like the flax, will damage you. But if we're looking specifically at a short base, you could more likely disable the whole short island that is many tiers above you. If you're quick enough and you time the spells right, it should be pretty doable to set up a high level base if it is a short island. But you will not be able to destroy the base in any way, because if you're hitting many tiers up, then you won't really be able to do much damage with the ammo, even if it has the damage bonus. And if you do ammo on a tower that is many tiers above you, then it will kill you before you do any amount of damage to it. But you could technically set up a base that is much higher than you. Now, unfortunately, I have not been able to fly Nocturne with these changes, but I do believe that this will significantly increase his ability to set up a base. Now, it does not change the fact that he will still struggle to kill towers at higher tiers. So the question is he worth it? Is he the dragon for you? Are you going to invest your hard-earned sigils into this dragon? Or I guess your hard-earned season of earning sigils. Now, that I think comes down to where you're at in the game and what dragons you have. Unfortunately, Nocturne will struggle against higher tier bases. So if you're early in the game and you're lower tier and you're already attacking bases that are higher tier than you with different dragons, Nocturne will not necessarily increase your ability to attack higher level or higher tier bases, aside from simply allowing you to set up the difficult kill island a little bit more easily. Now, if you're at a higher tier or almost at the max tier, then you might actually benefit more from Nocturne because he's built to attack these bases. And even if you're not 100% clearing the bases with Nocturne, you should be able to survive a couple hits and snow more towers and set it up more easily than somebody who would be attacking above the tier that Nocturne currently is in. Another thing to consider is if you've invested a lot of time and effort into learning how to fly Hasset or Noctua, these amazing setup dragons that can set up bases many tiers above its tier, then Nocturne might not really benefit you, because I believe Hasset has a lot more utility if you already know how to fly him well and are able to use him to set up higher tier bases, because Hasset is able to also destroy towers, whereas Nocturne would not be able to at high tiers. So you can see that the decision as to whether or not you should get Nocturne, it really depends on where you're at in the game and how much of a preference you have for hunters and how important it is to you to have a dragon that you will enjoy flying or you think is going to benefit you down the road when you hit higher tiers, or if you are really just looking for that dragon that will be your rock star first line attacker for every battle. And for which dragon I'm going to get, we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this video. All right, now we're going to talk about Fafnir's changes. I'm sorry, it's a little bit long already, but I think Fafnir will go a bit quicker. So Fafnir's changes include that the healing per tower destroyed is increased from 10% to 14% of the dragon's modified HP. And Shining Splendor will now last 5 seconds instead of 4 seconds, and only have a 6-second cooldown instead of an 8-second cooldown. Now, from what I experienced, Fafnir's main problem was that he died pretty easily after Shining Splendor ended, and that it was very difficult to use the guild twice on 2 different clusters of towers before Shining Splendor ended. Now with this increased duration, you will more reliably be able to use 2 cycles of that guild spell to destroy multiple towers in 2 separate locations, and theoretically be able to clear the entire island much more easily within that 5-second Shining Splendor duration. Also, because the cooldown is shorter, with the added decrease with the runes, it'll be much easier or much quicker to use Shining Splendor again to protect yourself right before you die, if that's the case. And with the increased healing from tower destruction, you should have a little bit more survivability because of these changes. So I think it will help Fafnir out with his main issues. However, I don't know if it will be enough to really allow him to hit defended bases at higher tiers more significantly or more effectively. Now, if you're definitely getting a Mythic this season, but you're not sure which one to get, I think Fafnir will be easier to get more advantage from, because I think that he will be better with less skill or less precision timing. But I don't know that it will really be that rockstar dragon that most people look for in a Mythic, that other people have gotten from past season Mythics, and that we might see with next season Mythics. So if you're deciding still whether or not you're going to push for a Mythic and you're not too impressed with the dragons, then it might be better to wait and see what comes out next season. However, if you're already set up in a position to get the Mythic and potentially still get one next season, and if you have questions about how to do that, check out my videos on how to get a Mythic free to play. I did get them back-to-back seasons as a free to play player. I do not call myself free to play anymore, but that's beside the point of this video. So now the question is, what am I gonna get? You know, there's a lot of things to take into consideration for this season, because neither one is going to take my top 1 or 2 or even 3 position in my roster at this point, because I have several other dragons that are just so strong for where I'm at in the game that I can hit multiple tiers above me even if a defender decides to join. Now, both of these dragons have some very unique qualities and are very cool as far as their design goes and the way that you can use their spells. But neither of them, again, is going to take over that top position. So it really depends what you look for. Nocturne has the ability to set up bases and it's a white cloak, and so it can be useful even if you're following a higher level attack. You can help in the middle to set up some marks of the hunter to allow for them to heal and get rage. You can disable a couple towers and maybe disable a full kill island to make it easier for them when they hit again. Or in war, if you're not going for the 7 flames, you could set up a kill island to allow somebody to back and clear it out. Now, Fafnir is really cool because no matter what happens, if you get fully mage drained, you start again with Fafnir, you have full rage. And Fafnir can block a lot of damage with Shining Splendor, and in that time can one-shot several towers twice, 2 rounds. And if you do it right, you can clear out a whole short island depending on the setup and your placement, which could be very helpful for a high level base, even if it's level 90 something tower, 95 towers now. And so that could be very useful in backing a high level player as well. So both of them have very unique abilities, and it really comes down to what you prefer. And if you don't know yet, excuse me, I have a strong preference for hunters. I love flying hunters. I love challenging myself and pushing myself to learn new hunters and fly new hunters. And so I think I'm leaning towards Nocturne right now. But the question is, do I really want to invest that time and effort? I don't know fully at this point if I do. But I do think that Nocturne would be one that would be more fun to play around with and make videos with, and I might get more enjoyment from that. I also really like the look of Nocturne, but I love the look of Fafnir as well, and his spells have really cool animations, so I haven't completely ruled him out yet, but definitely have a strong preference for Nocturne at this point, and that's most likely what I'm going to end up doing. But you'll definitely find out when I decide and see some videos on that at the end of the season. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into what you're going to do and a little bit better understanding of how these changes really affect the dragons. Good luck with the rest of your season and your decision on the Mythic if you're pushing for one. And if you haven't got a Mythic yet, if you're still working on setting up for that, check out my videos on how to get a Mythic free to play. I'll put them in the description so you can reference them easily, but I think that those will be very helpful for you as you're growing and learning to play this game. And even if you already know how to play the game and you're a seasoned player, I've had players who have commented saying to me that they've played for years and they've never thought they would be able to get a Mythic, but when they watched my videos, they saw how easy, or how possible, not easy, how possible it was if you plan it right, and now they have Mythics, and they're doing that. I think some of them are doing it every season as well. So definitely check those out, and we'll see you in the next video.